Hi, my name's Matt Johnson and this is MD Johnson Creative. So today I'll be giving an overview on this, the Fujifilm Xpro 1. I'm by no means a professional. I'm just a photographer enthusiast, camera enthusiast. So I just wanted to give a run through on what it's like to use in 2022. Now 10 years since it was first manufactured in 2012. Give you a rundown, and at the end of this I'll show you some photos of a recent photo walk that I took. So as I mentioned, the Fujifilm Xpro 1 was first released in 2012. It was a part of the X series of cameras that Fujifilm released. It has a 16 megapixel APS-C sensor, and it has it's the X sensor, the first edition they've released. As they've released newer editions of these cameras, they've updated the X sensor, and it's commonly believed that the X 1 sensor has a much better feel as far as getting that film look to it goes than any of its predecessors, and that's one of the reasons why the Fujifilm Xpro 1 has a bit of a cult following for the results that you can get from it. I got this camera in November 2020. I picked it up off eBay for about 350 Australian dollars. At the moment though, I've seen them listed on eBay recently for anywhere from $600 to, I've seen some listed for $1,000, and that's body only for a 10-year-old camera. So the cult following that they've got has really driven the price up over the last few years. But so I got in a couple of years ago now, and for about half the price of what they're going for at the moment. The lens that I have on this is, it's not a Fujifilm. I got the Canon FD 50mm f1.8, which in itself has a bit of a cult following as well for the image results that you get from it, and fitted to the APS-C sensor size cameras, it gives you an equivalent full frame focal length of 75mm. So it's a really good lens for portraiture. Can use it for other things, of course, but with its aperture and the field of view, it gives a good good difference in the background. You get that nice bokeh look to it. When I got this camera, it had been looked after pretty well. It had obviously been dropped at some stage. The old owner had, there's a bit of a crack, I don't know if it'll show up on the camera there, a bit of a crack on the front of the viewfinder, which you don't notice too much when you're using it. I don't use, because I've got a lens fitted with an adapter, I don't use the optical viewfinder anyway, because it doesn't allow for, it doesn't show you what's in focus and what isn't. You'd have to have a lens. If you had a Fujifilm lens hooked up to it, it can talk to the camera, and through the optical viewfinder you can see, it'll work out your focusing for you as well. So I use the EVF, so that way I get a preview of what's shown on the screen through the eyepiece. So having that crack in the viewfinder doesn't affect the way that I use this camera at all. Other than that, it was in pretty good condition. I mean, it had been used. It had a reasonably good shutter count for a camera of its age. So I was pretty happy with it when it turned up, because it's, you know, for a used camera, you know, it was in, you know, as good as you can expect for something that wasn't coming in a box and sort of kept in mint condition. But at the end of the day, it does a job for me. I knew when I got it that it wasn't going to be perfect, but as long as it took some good photos and I could have some fun with it, then that was all going to be okay. I could highly recommend, back on the Canon lens, I could really recommend this lens, as you'll see when I show some photos at the end of this video. It's got a really nice look to it, and it works really well with the, being a vintage lens, it works really well with the Xpro 1, particularly because I got the Xpro 1 to use the Fujifilm film simulations, which sort of makes shooting, you know, and the results you get a lot more fun than just a standard digital camera. So I've set this camera up with a few of the Fuji X Weekly film recipes in here. I've got Kodachrome 2, Fujifilm Superia Xtra 400, the Monochrome set up in here. There's a few others as well, but mostly I use the Superia Xtra 400 and the Monochrome. I'll play around with some others down the track, but at the moment that does everything that I need it to do. What else? The camera itself, like, it's got a good feel to it. When you hold it up, you know, it feels nice and sturdy. It's got a bit of weight to it, but it's not overly heavy. And some of that weight, you know, once you start chucking on some of those bigger lenses, like any camera, you start getting that sort of forward weight that sort of pulls it down. But it's not, you know, it's a good camera. It feels good in the hand. I did add on this JJC thumb grip at the back here, which really helps grip it a bit more, because there's not much. The handle on the front of it is quite sort of low and tiny, so having this thumb grip on the top as well sort of allows you to sort of hold it with one hand if need be, and use my other hand as just a bit of guidance when I'm holding it steady, and it makes it feel a lot more secure in the hands. The photos that this thing takes are like really good. When I first got this camera, I used it a little bit, got a bit sidetracked with COVID and everything, and didn't get much of an opportunity to go out and shoot it. But I've picked this up again in the last couple of weeks. I'd actually had a bit of a break from photography, and I got this camera here, the Ilford Sprite 35-2, got me back into using cameras again. I'll be doing a review on that later, as well as a review later on the Himatic Minolta that I picked up as well, secondhand. But the photos that this thing takes, the Xpro 1, especially with a 50mm vintage Canon lens on there, like, it blows my mind that this is like a 10-year-old camera, and it takes these sorts of photos with the feel that it has, like, especially having the film looks to them. I really enjoy that, and I haven't owned a camera before. Before this, I owned an Olympus OMD EM5, I think it was the Mark II, and that was a good camera. I really enjoyed that, and I had a good couple of lenses with that, took some great photos. But the photos that this takes, it just has a completely different feel to it. And when you can't really see, it's got a low resolution screen, so when you see previews of it out on the field, you're like, oh yeah, that's okay. But it's not until when you get the camera home, get the photos loaded up on your computer, and you see it on a full resolution screen, you see how good the photos actually are. And I can't comment on the autofocus. I've heard it mentioned that the autofocus is a little slow, so you definitely won't be doing sports photography or even, I guess, nature photography too much with this camera. but I've got my lenses manual focus anyway, so that doesn't bother me. Which I find with that setup, and keeping in mind that I'm using film simulations, I try to use this camera a little bit more like it is a film camera. I don't want to just spray shots off everywhere. It sort of, I find that it forces me to take a bit more time with the composition, the lighting, just capturing those key moments and trying to do a good job of it rather than just spray and pray style shooting, which isn't a bad thing. I think there's nothing wrong with, you know, coming out with a few less shots, but getting more of what you want and less editing down the track or sorting through photos. You know, when I've had digital camera in the past and took it out on like photo shoots for friends and stuff like that, you come back with hundreds and hundreds of photos, and you know, there's only, you know, maybe 40-50% of that is what you're gonna use or is gold, whereas there's a lot of rubbish ends up in amongst it because of the amount of photos that you've taken. So I really enjoy the look of the photos. I enjoy that this camera slows down the process, and I'm very happy with the results that it gives. The colors as well. The colors that it's not, well, Fujifilm, but this X-Trans 1 sensor, I can't compare it to the others because this is my first Fujifilm camera that I've owned. But I can say, as far as the comments that people make about the colors that the X-Trans 1 sensor can produce, they really are beautiful. Like, the very vivid colors, great skin tones, and then of course that varies depending on what film simulation that you're using, but overall it has a really good look to it. Now, most importantly with this camera, it's really fun to shoot. It's got a good feel about it. It's not a massive SLR camera. You get great results even with its 16 megapixel sensor. You could definitely, if you really wanted to, get professional results from this camera. It's more than capable of it. I don't think I'd rely on it as a sole camera to take on a shoot. It's probably something you'd take this and something else as a backup just in case, purely because being a 10-year-old camera, I guess you don't know what could happen out on the field, especially if it's a job you're getting paid for. You don't want to risk, and most photographers take multiple cameras anyway. You don't want to risk not having something to get the job done and to capture the memories you're being paid to take. But for a fun, you know, like hobby camera, street photography, portraits for friends, landscape photography, like, you get some really good results from this camera, and I love the results you get out of it. So before I show you the photos, just wanted to say again, I will be having a review come out soon for the Ilford Sprite 35-2. It's a film camera. It's a new camera. It's basically a disposable camera that's been made to be reusable. Just need to shot one roll of Superia Xtra 400 through it. I've got a roll of Ilford HP5 I want to shoot through it as well, and then I'll give my opinion on this camera. I've not long picked up the Minolta Highmatic GF, which I intended on shooting the other day when I took these photos to get some comparison shots between digital and film, but I made a mistake loading up the film and couldn't get the film to advance, so that blew that. But I will do a review on this down the track after I've had a chance to use it. And I've also got I've just purchased a secondhand vintage Pentax MX SLR film camera. So once that comes and I've had a chance to shoot a few rolls of film through that, I'll also be giving a review for that as well. Anyway, I'll show you the results I got from my recent photo walk at Sydney Centennial Park. I just took some basic like street photography style photos, and a friend of ours was doing a promo shoot for her business, and I got some behind the scenes shots of that all happening, and I was pretty happy with the results, being the first proper time shooting this again. So anyway, I hope you enjoy the photos. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you've enjoyed this video, hit the like button, and I'd really appreciate if you click on subscribe and the little bell tab so that you get notifications when I upload new videos. So I don't do just photography videos. I also do music videos as well. I've been learning to play guitar during lockdown, and I've been doing uploading covers as I learn them and to play along. So feel free to check out everything else on my channel so far, and have a good day.